I don't know, Jeff, has it? I must have missed that.
Welcome to the Commentary Box YouTube channel. We're doing a bit of a test match preview, and we have two great guests with us today. Some of my friends. Go ahead, guys, introduce yourselves.
I need no introduction, having been on the Commentary Box podcast before.
Yep.
I'm delighted to be back and ready to discuss the upcoming series. Cabalan.
Hey guys, I'm Cabs. So unlike AJ, this is my first time on the commentary box. So thank you very much, Arj, for having me on.
Yeah, well, you can thank me after because better get involved in some cricket chat in a minute. So obviously coming up on Friday, we have the India versus England Test series starting, and after the England Sri Lanka and the India Australia series, I think we're in for a cracker here. But yeah, let's kick off. India looking really good coming into this series, and so are England. So let's start with the bat, right? And let's have a look at the strengths of each team. So yeah.
So I mean, England had a terrible time with the bat in Sri Lanka, the openers anyway. I think both Zach Crawley and Dom Sibley struggled a lot in the series. It'll be good to get Rory Burns back, Ollie Pope too. And I think that's where it has to start for England. In 2016, they didn't have many good first inning scores, and they suffered throughout that series. But perhaps if they can get a good margin going in the first innings across all four tests, they might stand a chance, albeit a very small one.
Well, yeah, we can have a look at a few of the guys in the England squad as you've started off with England. In terms of batting, obviously Joe Root's in great form. He had a great series in Sri Lanka with a couple of centuries, and he's their figurehead in the England test in the England batting side, right? And I think a lot of their success will come through Root if they do get success. But yeah, Cabs, have you got any sort of guys that you reckon might turn up?
Well, of course, in terms of England, Joe Root, the captain, he's going to be great. But I'm not too sure in terms of the Indian wicket because, of course, we know the Chennai wicket acts very differently. So how they actually do against spin is what we're going to see. In terms of the Indian side, however, we do have some players just coming from the back of the Australian tour, Rishabh Pant, Washington Sundar, and even some other players that like Shardul Thakur, who did really well in Australia. And then you've got the other, the regulars like Pujara coming in. And I don't know, it's going to be an interesting contest, definitely, especially in terms of the batting in Chennai.
I think the interesting thing to note is England being the last team to win in India in 2012. You had Alistair Cook, who scored like more than 500 runs at an average of 80. Who is going to be England's Alistair Cook this time? I mean, I guess Root would fulfill the Kevin Peterson persona in the team.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of where he'd bat anyway. But who at the top is going to take on the mantle of being the Alistair Cook of the team and, really set the platform for England to attack off?
That's a good point because Rory Burns is yet to play in India, so it'll be interesting to see how he does. But I think he could have, he could play a big factor for England, especially at the top of the order. I think now, from the news today, we've heard that Crawley might not be playing, and so I think there's definitely a big role for Rory Burns up there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the key for England because, if you find yourself down a few wickets at the start, it will be very difficult for you to come back to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just from the nature of the pitch and the mentality of the India team, the buzzing at the moment. It's a fantastic victory in Australia against all odds. And so, I mean, I'm very pessimistic about England's chances. And one of these key reasons being that there seems to be no kind of star batsman at the top of the order who can anchor an innings.
Well, yeah, with that, I'm just surprised that Bairstow isn't in the squad for the first 2 games. I think you said that as well, and it's a bit ridiculous. He's proved it in India. He plays IPL cricket there. He knows the conditions quite well, and instead, you've got maybe a guy in Dan Lawrence who has barely played Test cricket, and you're chucking him right into the deep end. Most likely coming in at number 5 if Pope isn't fit enough. And so, yeah, they do maybe lack a bit in terms of batting depth and quality of depth at the top of the order, especially.
Yeah, it's just I mean, when you obviously keeping Bairstow is a big decision, especially for the first 2 tests. But then you have to understand the logistics of everything that they've gone through within the last 6 months, 8 months, and the next 12 months to come as well. They've got a T20 World Cup coming up. They've got the Ashes. They've already had a bunch of series. They've been in South Africa. They've been in Sri Lanka. They're going to Australia after they come back to India for the World Cup. So, and they've got the IPL on top of that. And I'm sure some of them might end up playing the T20 Blast or 100 as well.
Yeah.
So it's a demanding life, the life of an international cricketer.
Well, yeah,
but
saying that, in India have also only just returned back from, their, was it 6 weeks in the UAE and the UAE as well, just before that. Yeah. So they've been away from home for about 3 or 4 months now as well. And so
it was about the start of November till the end of January they were away.
That's a while. And I'm sure India raring to go back in India again, and Indians, I'm pretty sure you mentioned 24 wins out of the last 32 games in India.
So it's 28 victories, 28 test wins of the last 34 tests in India, 1 defeat.
Exactly. So there you go. India, tough to beat at home. And one point I'd like to make is, if you take yourself back about 5 years, I think India had the spin attack. They've always tended to have the spin attack. But this year especially, and the last 2 or 3 years, the pace attack seems to have improved tremendously. And I know, Cabs, you mentioned that, pace may not be such a big factor in Chennai. But overall, in a series, you need your guys to pick up 20 wickets to win a test match. And that's just how it is. And I think India now have the balanced attack to take on picking up 20 wickets in a test all over the world.
Well, here's the crazy thing, right? Jasprit Bumrah has never actually played a test in India.
No way.
This is going to be his first test in India.
Oh wow! Okay, I did not know that.
It's incredible to think of how. Yeah. It's incredible to think how good India are at home. In Test cricket, probably the toughest place to play a test for a foreign nation. And then you add to that the fact that one of the best bowlers in the world, bar maybe Pat Cummins, has yet to play for them there.
Yeah.
So once you add him to the mix, I mean, it becomes all the more exciting. But a lot of Indian players have definitely seen a resurgence in the latter half of their career, seamers especially. You've got Ishant Sharma, whose average is down by 10, 15 runs now. I mean, he's world-class bowler now. Same with Shami as well.
Yeah.
These are players who they had the skill, definitely, but they've now developed the consistency to become top-rate international bowlers.
And he's got the experience, Ishant Sharma, in India as well. Like you said, if Bumrah doesn't have the experience in India, you've got someone who's played loads of test matches in India, like Ishant Sharma.
I believe he's going to become the second Indian seamer to play 100 tests.
Who's that, Ishant Sharma?
Yep.
He's also
with this test coming up.
Yeah, I think he's a few wickets away from picking up 300 test wickets as well. And I think only 2 Indians have done that in the past, in Zahir Khan and Anil Kumble, which is, up there with the big names of Indian cricket.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always been a guy he's never been the main guy, but he's put together a great cricketing career.
I think he adds such balance to the Indian bowling lineup. You have the pace of Bumrah, you have that sort of Ishant Sharma's learned and developed a more holding role. A bit like Josh Hazlewood for Australia. You know, you wouldn't say he's their strike bowler when you have Cummins and Stark, but you know, he keeps it tight, and I think that's how he's made a success of himself in the last 3, 4, 5 years.
I definitely agree. I think he's like the best supporting fast bowler, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And he'll be good supporting bowler to Bumrah. Arjun, earlier on, you were saying in terms of the wicket. Now, it is a dry wicket, but I think one thing you might want to consider is maybe in the first couple of days you might see some kind of conditions that favor the fast bowler. It's really from the third day onwards that probably it gets drier and the spin would probably kick in. So if India really do employ their bowlers well, they might actually get something out of that first couple of days. Same with England.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
here's a question for you guys. Here's a question for you guys. Rishabh Pant, do you play him as the wicketkeeper or not?
see, in India, that's a tough one, because in India there's definitely going to be a lot of turn, you know, and a lot of spin bowling overs over the whole test. And I understand he's maybe not as good of a keeper as Saha, but as a batsman, you know, you take him, and he's only going to learn. I think you have to keep with Pant, because he's just an incredible.
I agree.
Yeah, he's a far superior batter, and yeah, I think you'd be sort of going back and being regressive if you picked players like Saha or even Rahul as a keeper. He's not a keeper really, but yeah.
Because only 2 of Pant's test starts have come in India.
Mm-hmm.
And they were looking at looking back at like his catch rate is something like 56 of spinners, 56%.
Not
compared
great.
to 93 for seam.
Yeah.
Right, but he's had such a good tour in Australia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It just seems like now you just got to stick with him and help him improve along the way, because that's the only way he's going to get better. The better he gets as a wicketkeeper, the better India get as a team.
The only thing I'd say against that is Saha as a wicketkeeper, as a gloveman, is probably one of the best in the world at the moment. And you know, in test matches, when you're missing out on 3, maybe 4 chances a game, that can play a big factor in if you win or lose. But yeah, I do agree his batting just massively trumps Saha.
But it makes sense just to have Pant in there, because
Yeah.
I mean, the more he progresses as a wicketkeeper, the more it helps across all sorts of formats, with the T20 World Cup coming up as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Pant will be the wicketkeeper for that team.
Yeah.
It won't be Saha.
No.
So I mean, the more time you can give Pant, the better. But it just seems he's bought himself definitely the opportunity.
100%.
With his performances in Australia.
His away performances have generally tended to be quite phenomenal for an Indian batsman, and yeah, I think going on from that, we can talk about the Indian batting lineup, because you know they performed really well in Australia, and in India you can only expect better, really.
Definitely.
I mean, Cabs, what do you think of the opening pair of Sharma and Gill?
Gill, yeah. No, I think it's excellent. Honestly, we've got Sharma, who's very experienced, but probably hasn't been his best, especially in the Australian tour. I mean, he didn't really come up with anything big or what we actually expect from him. But we have Shubman Gill, who's actually done really well in Australia. And I think you have to consider what actually went on in the Australia tour, because like despite all the odds, they actually went and won that series. They had the momentum. We've got young guys here like Pant, like Shubman Gill, who be ready to go again. And you have to consider that. And I think it's actually a good combination between Gill and Rohit. Like we said, we have someone who's experienced, someone who isn't as experienced, but has the momentum going their way, is playing good cricket at the moment, and has just come off a good series. So I think at the moment, I think that's the combination that India should be looking for with this tour. And like it's going great, so why change it?
Yeah, I mean, there is an argument for KL Rahul to be in the side. I mean, I don't think he's done anything wrong. It's just Sharma has the credentials. He is phenomenal in India, as everyone knows. He can make those beginnings, but yeah, I mean that seems sort of quite fixed right now with Sharma, Gill, and then Pujara at 3 and Kohli at 4, and then obviously Rahane at 5.
I think the Sharma issue, it's a case of he's earned that job over the years.
Yeah.
But unless something like monumentally goes bad, they will stick with him and like see it through. Because it's not like especially the Australia series, like he'd come in, like he'd look okay, he'd play a few nice shots, and then he'd throw away his wicket.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It wasn't like the man looked like he couldn't bat at all. It was just lapses of concentration, bad shots at the wrong time.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, you don't need to like kind of go over the man's technique and etc. and say, is this man good enough? Of course, he's good enough. They just got to stick with him, and over time, he'll like kind of smooth this out. But I mean, Gill played some fantastic shots in Australia. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play again. And I think that like then obviously you got Pujara. I mean, you could throw whatever you want at Pujara. He'll just block it, won't he?
Yeah.
And if his back can't do the job, his body will.
Well, he proved that in that last test, didn't he?
Definitely.
But then, yeah, going down from after Rahane, you'd obviously have Pant, again, who can bat. And then I think India have also got a number of those all-rounders, don't they? You could have the likes of Pandya, Ashwin. Recently, we've seen Washington Sundar. These guys can also bat as well. So it's sort of leaning towards... Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just going to forget the fact that Kohli's back as well. So that's definitely going to be a great boost since, like, obviously he's away during the Australia tour. So having the captain or that senior figure back is going to definitely help as well.
I have a question for you two, though. So I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think India would have won that series against Australia if Kohli was captain. If Kohli was there, maybe as a batsman, Kohli would have added. But what do you think? I think because he wasn't there, the fighting spirit was a lot higher. That's just my opinion, though.
But I mean, like it's possible, but I wouldn't take that as a knock on Kohli.
No.
Rather, that there are a lot of young players who are saying, "I want to impress that man," because a lot of young players, they aren't just raising their game because they're playing for their country, but they know they're playing in place of Virat Kohli.
Yeah.
Right, and they look to Kohli like the team used to look to Dhoni, right? Like that is one of the best players in the world. That's our captain. We want to do everything by him to succeed. And I think Rahane's stock's never been higher after that series.
Yeah.
Because the way he marshalled such a young changing room, and the way he led that team was to some sort of a miracle victory was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Some things you just don't know. They're just hypothetical. You don't know, like if Kohli was there, if he wasn't there. But I mean, all we can say is Rahane did well. That's about it.
Yeah, and
well, I mean, doesn't that tell you like just how successful Indian cricket is at the moment, that we can sit here and say, maybe if Kohli wasn't there, would they win? But they won without him. Like, it's amazing that we're even here sitting here discussing that, right?
Yeah.
Because most teams, if you get Kohli going away and then you get injuries that the likes that India suffered, you'd be like, wow, if Kohli was there, would they still lose 4-0 or something? Like, especially after the way that first test went, right?
So my point actually wasn't more about the performances. It was more the spirit aspect of it. I think, yeah, I mean, they say it's a debatable one. I mean, you'd never know because you can't replay the exact same series and just stick Kohli in. So I might have to do it on a Brian Lara 2005 one day. But
you never know. It could be a Kohli on Zoom on the other side at tee and stumps. So really, you just don't.
Maybe Australia as well. Maybe they wouldn't have let it slip away from them if Kohli was there, right?
Yeah. I mean,
because if Kohli's on that pitch, I'm not just trying to I'm trying to win my game and embarrass Kohli in whatever way possibly I can.
Well, I don't think so. If you go back to the last series of Australia and India, where Kohli and Payne had that run in. Now, take a look back at this series and you have that Payne and Ashwin interaction where Payne apologised after the test. There's no way in hell he would have apologised to Kohli. But like that,
Well,
there's that sort of rivalry, and
right, yeah.
he
Well,
brings that out.
I feel like I feel, but also the person that Kohli is. I mean, I say this as a fan of Indian cricket, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we'll keep it PG so we don't get demonetized. But you know, like Kohli he can be unlikable, especially when he's captaining RCB. If Chennai are playing RCB Kablan, you look at Kohli. Sometimes your thoughts towards him aren't all like positive. That's the captain of my country.
Yeah.
They're somewhat negative, and that's because of his demeanor on the field.
Yeah.
And some of the way he acts and carries himself during the game.
That is true.
Yeah, the other aspect is you got to look at it, and like Arjun was saying previously, it might be true. You know, they might be like, without Kohli, they all automatically switch the buttons on and think, right, you know, we need to work that little bit harder. We've actually lost our captain. We lost one of our batsmen. We need to like really pull up our socks and win this test. You know, so it could be that aspect as well. That sort of, well, if they were ever complacent or if they ever thought to themselves, oh, you know what, Kohli's there, or I don't need to worry too much about my batting, you know, like the lower order or even the higher order, thinking, you know, Kohli's coming down the line or whatnot, and we've got good batsmen coming up. That kind of aspect, that factor is taken away, you know, when Kohli left. So they probably, or they might have thought, you know, we actually need to work harder.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Well, Kohli is obviously one of the big game changers in for India, but other guys like Pant, who we've spoken about, and Hardik Pandya can also do the same thing. England also have some of those guys with the likes of Ben Stokes. You know, Butler can go and score a quick 50, 80, 100. And so I think it's important to sort of, you know, recognize that either team can have those one player can have a huge performance at any given point.
Right,
and
that series that kind of shows you that this player's gone from one level to the next now.
Yeah. But who else do you think for England is in that bracket?
I mean, the obvious one would be someone saying Jofra, right?
Yeah.
Jofra has the ability to kind of take it to the next level and be this frighteningly quick bowler who can really rough the team up. It'll be interesting to see how he plays.
Yeah.
That was the hope for England, right? In the World Cup, it proved true. He was that X factor that they needed. But I think, England's resistance would definitely be centered around Joe Root and like Ben Stokes. But yeah, with the ball, I mean, it'd be interesting to see if like Stuart Broad, how much he plays, or Anderson, because I mean, I know lots of people like to mock Anderson for like his success on English pitches, but I mean, I definitely think he can do it there as well. But England lack that spinner.
So
right? That's the big issue coming into this.
That's
because in 2012 when they won, it was Graham Swan and Monty Panesar, two of their top wicket takers, right, running through the Indian team.
See, that's one
Who's
point.
going to do that this time?
That's one point I'd like to make is, you know, there's not really a comparison between India's spin attack and England's spin attack at the moment. But, you know, the English spinners did pick up a few wickets in Sri Lanka. And, you know, they're more than likely going to play both Bess and Leach. Would you go with Moeen Ali?
Well, I don't know. See, they picked up wickets, right? They picked up wickets in Sri Lanka, but I mean, if you look at some of those wickets, I mean, calling it like their wicket is very like it's very polite and kind of fortunate because some of the shots the Sri Lankan players played, Jesus Christ,
yeah, they were not good.
It was like they were on stick cricket mode, just trying to like slog it.
No.
But yeah, with Moeen, I don't know. He can bat. Of course, he can bat.
Yeah.
He's very good. But I mean, he's been expensive against Pakistan in the UAE and against India previously in 2016. So But maybe once again, Moeen Ali is one of those players. Sometimes he's inconsistent. Sometimes he's absolutely fantastic. We've seen it in the IPL, right? We've seen it in home test matches, seen it in the ODIs. So maybe England go with that one X factor, because I don't think the upside of their two current spinners is significant enough to warrant their inclusion every game.
That is fair. And Cabs, what do you think about the three Indian spinners? I know Ashwin's going to be a shoe-in, but
he's going straight in.
Yeah, but who do you reckon the other two will be? The
other two, right now, I think if you want to go, well, you got Ashwin, right? Who's got right arm off break, all his variations. He's done great before. I think from what I remember, I think 2016 he did really well in India against England as well, especially in Mumbai. But in Chennai, that's his home ground, isn't it? He's gonna be great. But hopefully, in regards to the other two spinners, now we have Kuldeep Yadav, we have Akshar Patel, and we have Washington Sundar.
Yeah.
Now, with Kuldeep, leg spinner, but he hasn't been at the top of his game recently. But I do know, I would put Kuldeep in just for some variation. We have an off spinner, we've got a leg spinner, and then it's between Akshar Patel and Washington Sundar for the last position.
Technically, Kuldeep's the same type of spin as Ashwin, just he's a left arm Chinaman, which he'll turn it into the right hander naturally. But obviously England have generally sort of failed against the left arm spinner. Left arm spinner. And India miss out on Jadeja right now this series. He's out injured. So maybe we could see Akshar Patel, but I highly doubt it, because Sundar played well in Australia, and if they do
the only reason they probably go with Akshar Patel is based on England's weaknesses and how England performed in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, but it depends though. If India do decide to go with three spinners or just the two.
Yeah, I personally think they should go for three spinners in Chennai. They should first let's see how the wicket is. If it's a typical Chennai Chepauk pitch, then I definitely recommend three spinners, especially when they're three good spinners. I don't when you compare those three spinners, however good they're performing, or whether they're the top of their game or not. I definitely think they're three better spinners than the three England spinners. So, personal opinion. So, I think that they should definitely stick with going with three spinners. Ashwin definitely in. I personally would go for Washington Sundar, mainly based on because he plays Ranji Trophy and that's his home ground. He probably knows Chennai really well, and he's had a good Australian tour as well. So because of that reason, I would go for Washington Sundar. But I can see why they might pick Akshar Patel too.
Yeah.
It might be a case that they actually pick both and Kuldeep Yadav has to sit out. But we all know Ashwin's definitely in, and I personally think it's two of the others.
Okay.
I'll be joining in.
Fair enough. Well, anyways, just to finalize off, good to have a few predictions. We can review this at the end of the series as well. So let's have your series score.
No. Go on, AJ.
3-0. I'll say 3-0.
Cabs?
There's a bit of faith in me that some weather will intervene and England will be saved by one of the tests, but 3-0 I think is a fair prediction. 3-0 to India, of course.
And Cabs?
I would have said, to be honest.
Sorry?
I would have said 3-0 as well.
I think it's 3-0 all around the board.
Yeah, I just want to leave that one. I don't know if they'll win all four. Let's hope that they'll win all four. Or in my case, let's hope that they'll win all four. But 3-0, I think, just because we don't know. There's always that element of unpredictability, isn't there? So and England are a good team, so it could play out for a draw.
And then your top run scorer, AJ?
Or Pujara, just an absolute fantastic series from Pujara, I reckon.
Pujara is a good choice, but I do want to go for someone different to AJ. Let's go with Do you know what? Let's go with Cody. Let's see if we can.
That's
do it.
that's the easy option, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the easy option. I just didn't want to go for Pajara as well, same as AJ. You know, let's try and bank on someone different.
I'm gonna go for Gill in the hope that he has, you know, 1 or 2 absolutely huge innings, because you know it's that time that he's due one. So yeah, hopefully Shubman Gill. We've gone Indians all across the board again, and finally the top wicket taker.
Ashwin took 28 last time England toured, so Ashwin again.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what? As much as I want to go for someone different, I can't. I'm going to go for Ashwin as well.
Likewise, unless he gets injured or something horrible happens to him, I think it has to be Ashwin. Yeah, you're right. We'll see what happens in this series. We will review this at the end of the series. If you're new here, which you will be because this is the first commentary box video, hit the subscribe button, like the video, and we'll catch you guys soon. Take care.